Hello friends, welcome to another edition of Bronco Sports Weekly. I'm Sean Fagan. We had a fantastic homecoming weekend here at Western Michigan. We had a lot of teams on the road in competition as well, so you may not have had a chance to see those games. So let's talk about the results right now. Well, we'll lead with football as they were dominant in the 89th annual homecoming game on Saturday, defeating the UMass Minutemen 52-14 at Waldo Stadium. Tyler Van Tubergen threw 5 touchdown passes and ran for another, and Antoine Scriven scored 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing and 1 receiving. The Bronco defense was dominant. They gave up just 96 yards in the first half against the Minutemen, and they notched 4 quarterback sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and 3 quarterback hurries, absolutely terrorizing the Minuteman backfield. Here's a statistical note you may want to pay attention to. Freshman punter Jay Schroeder in the first half booted the ball 82 yards from the shadow of his own goalpost all the way to the 10-yard line of the Minutemen. That is the longest punt in Division I this season. Congratulations, Jay. Well, men's soccer split a pair of MAC matches last weekend, but continued their undefeated season at home with a 4-0 win over Florida Atlantic on Sunday. 4 different players contributed goals in the win, and Jason Grant added 3 total points with a goal and an assist as the Broncos jumped all over the Owls in the first half. Sean Lewis only had to make 1 save in the shutout victory. 14 different members of the cross-country team turned in personal bests on Friday as the Broncos took second at the Michigan Intercollegiates. Aisha Hodge was the top finisher for the Broncos, took 3rd place overall with a time of 18:05. Rachel Whitley took 8th with an 18:30, and Jerisha Tucker was 9th with a time of 18:34. The Broncos will compete at Bradley this week, and in 2 weeks' time, they will be at the MAC Championships. Wow, can't believe that season is already wrapping up. Volleyball split a pair of MAC road matches last week, including a 3-0 sweep of Northern Illinois on Thursday evening. The win was the first time the Broncos swept the Huskies on the road since the 2005 season, their first win in DeKalb since 2010. Stephanie Yancey had a monster week for the Broncos, averaging 2.88 kills per set and hitting .459 over 2 matches, including a .625 percentage against Northern Illinois. Great job from the freshman. A little bit later on today's show, we'll be talking with Jessica Brown, the lone senior on the Bronco volleyball team. You won't want to miss that. And women's soccer bounced back from a loss on Friday to force a scoreless draw with Ball State on the road on Sunday. Goalkeeper Michelle Watson made an impressive 12 saves. In the tie with the Cardinals, the Broncos were able to keep the Cardinals off the board for the duration. And now let's take a look at some of the highlights from this past weekend. Bronco football in the 89th annual homecoming game hosting the UMass Minutemen. Late in the first quarter, Tyler Van Tubergen would throw the screen pass to Brian Fields, takes it from 15 yards out, going to bounce off a defender into the end zone to give the Broncos a 7-0 lead. From there, the Bronco offense would roll. Here's Van Tubergen looking across the field. Justin Collins, his first career touchdown catch to make it a 2-score game. Now later in the first, a very odd play. Andrew Haldeman's kickoff would bounce off a UMass up man. Jarrell McKinney would pounce on the loose ball. That would give the Broncos possession right after their touchdown, and Van Tubergen would make them pay. He goes deep to Jamie Wilson on this one, 32 yards, great catch by Wilson, and then later on that drive, Van Tubergen rolling out to his right, hits Matt Cutler in the end zone. The Broncos would win 52-14 over UMass. Over to hockey now. Bronco hockey in their exhibition opener taking on Western Ontario. In the first period, Nolan Laporte steps to the top of the crease, slides one past the goaltender. The Broncos took the 1-0 lead. Later in the first period, on the power play, Dane Walters going to slam one home. The Broncos would tie Western Ontario 2-2. And now moving on to men's soccer, the Broncos would have their way with Florida Atlantic in the second half. Cam Jensen going to take this feed from Jason Grant, bang it home to give the Broncos a 3-0 lead. Jason Grant would score a goal of his own, though, later in the second half. Grant would finish with a goal and an assist, this time going to boot one off the hands of the goalkeeper. The Broncos would defeat the Owls 4-0. WMU is undefeated at home in 2012. Welcome back to Bronco Sports Weekly. Joining me now, we have the lone senior on the Western Michigan volleyball team as the Broncos get ready for 3 important matches this weekend. I am talking, of course, about Jess Brown. Jess, 3 big matches coming up. You're taking on Marquette, then you've got home matches against Akron and Buffalo coming up this weekend. Talk a little bit about the challenges that you're going to see with these teams.
Well, we play Marquette tomorrow, and we're very excited to play someone out of our conference. It'll be a refresher, just to kind of see where we're at outside of the conference, but it'll be fun. We love playing Marquette, and it'll be good competition, and we're prepared to play them.
You had a great match personally against Marquette last year when you beat them 3-1 at University Arena. What do you expect to see out of this team that's going to be different from last year, that's going to be the same?
I think most important, they're going to compete. Everyone that we've played so far this season has wanted to play us and wanted to compete against us very hard. So it'll be the same thing. They're going to come at us hard, and we're going to come right back at them hard, and hopefully we'll compete even harder than them and pull out that W.
Now this weekend you take on Akron and Buffalo at University Arena. The Broncos historically have just been fantastic against conference opponents at home. What do you think makes it so tough for these other teams when they come here?
We have a great fan base, and they get behind us after every single point. So I think that's really hard to come into a place where the fans love us and they love to watch us play, and most importantly, they love to watch us win. So they're going to help us in any way they can.
You're the only senior on this team, but last year we only had one senior in Ashley Turnage. Talk a little bit about how your leadership role has changed, or maybe how it stayed the same.
It's changed a lot. I've gotten a lot older, and I'm by far the oldest one on the team, age-wise and year-wise, but I just have to lead the girls in a different way that I haven't had to do, coming out of my comfort zone a little bit. But, you know, it feels a little uncomfortable sometimes just because I am the only senior, but it has its perks at sometimes too.
This is your senior year. You haven't won a MAC championship yet. What would it mean to you to be able to take home the title in your last year?
Oh my, it'd be like the icing on the cake times 10. It'd be so nice to get that MAC championship. So I'm going to make sure that I give my team everything every single day in practice and in games to make sure that we can put ourselves in a situation that we're able to do that.
Well, the Broncos will be in action on Tuesday night against Marquette, and then they'll take on Akron and Buffalo on Friday and Saturday. Both of those matches scheduled for 7 p.m. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
All right, folks, let's take a look at the things we'll be watching for this weekend. After a week off, both the men's and women's tennis teams will be back at it, with the women's team heading back to the Chicago area where they'll participate in the Northwestern Wildcat Invitational, and the men's team will be saying Tennessee ain't no place I'd rather be. They'll be at the Tennessee Fall Classic. Keep track of all the results Friday through Sunday at WMUBroncos.com. Cross country will be back in action in their final tune-up before the MAC championships in 2 weeks when they go to the Bradley Invitational on Friday. 14 different athletes recorded PRs last week for the Broncos. They'll look to take the next step this week before going to the big race in Buffalo in just a few. Women's soccer will have a pair of home matches this weekend, taking on the Kent State Golden Flashes on Friday and the Ohio Bobcats on Sunday. The Broncos will look for another dominant defensive performance, much like the one they recorded against Ball State earlier this week. Men's soccer has just one match this week. They'll go on the road to play Cincinnati on Thursday. Volleyball has a challenging slate of matches this week, starting with a Tuesday night tussle at Marquette before returning home for matches against Akron and Buffalo this weekend. The Broncos currently sitting in second place in the MAC West Division, but their record against MAC East teams at home is impressive. They are 17-4 in matches under Colleen Munson. So the Broncos looking to get healthy against Akron and Buffalo. Football heads back on the road after a 3-game homestand when they go to Muncie to take on MAC West rival Ball State on Saturday. Kickoff scheduled for 3 p.m. and the Broncos hope that the offensive juggernaut they rolled out on Saturday against UMass shows up again against the Cardinals. Also, that defensive performance, can't say enough about it, absolutely shutting down the Minutemen. And then our number one item this weekend, hockey, will make their regular season debut with a pair of home games against St. Lawrence at Lawson Ice Arena. The Broncos will start defending their CCHA championship in earnest in a few weeks when they take on Notre Dame on the road, but we're still excited to say it's going to be a hockey night in Kalamazoo. And that's going to do it for us this week on Bronco Sports Weekly. I am Sean Fagan saying join us again next week, same Bronco time, same Bronco place.